All right, once we get to the 30-minute mark, we have to
Time they
stop.
close this place.
Hey, I'm recording a pod. Can I call you back in like 30? All right, thanks. We all square here.
I think we're all in the frame.
We're all framed in,
All
looking
right.
really nice and
Look cute. It's
little
good.
squad here.
All right.
Oh, good.
Recording here. Do we want to give a clap?
Hey, Frog fans, welcome into another episode of Frogs Insider. Jamie Plunkett here with Melissa Treebwasser, as always, and a very special guest joining us from the the Ford Center here at the Star for Big 12 Media Days. Jeremy Clark, Horned Frog Blitz's own, joins the show today. Jeremy, thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Absolutely. For you too, anything.
Listen,
Aw.
Anything.
you're so sweet when the camera's turned on.
Yeah, this is not how conversations were going earlier today.
Hey, my Venmo has been texted to both of you guys.
All right,
Good.
perfect. Yeah, we'll take good care of you there. Hey, so for both of you, we're out here at Big 12 Media Days. Obviously, it's day 2, 16 teams in, 16 teams out, with Sonny Dykes and 6 Horned Frogs being a part of this day here on day 2. When you think about all that the Frogs talked about today, whether it's Sonny Dykes up on the dais or the players on one-on-ones, is there anything that generally kind of stood out to either of you that you heard from Sonny and the players today?
I mean, if you talk about the whole rev share, I think every coach is pretty much on the same.
Almost.
I mean, pretty much. I mean, what, 15 out of 16?
15 out of 16.
We missed one yesterday. I wasn't here yesterday, so I think collectively all the coaches are kind of in the same boat of how this thing should be dealt with and work. And I think you guys probably got some great clips from Sonny talking about it. We heard a little bit about it on the panel when they were asking all the coaches about it. I think Rich Rod had some good discussion. I think every coach is pretty much in the same idea of how they should move forward with rev share, and that was really what stuck out to me, because when I look at college football now, that's what it's all about. You have a team that we all know who's trying to buy a championship, buy a roster, and I think
Say
when
it. Say the name, Jeremy.
I'll let Jamie say it, because the fans love him.
The Texas Tech Red Raiders.
There you go.
Whoa!
So-
Breaking news.
So when I listen to the coaches talk about that, it's pretty clear to see that they're kind of all on the same page, and I think that's important with where we're at in college football today. Big 12 already has really good parity, but it's clearly obvious that everyone on that panel today has the intention of trying to make sure their roster is going to be managed correctly and, let's just say it, not overpaid.
Yeah, I think, you mentioned the word parity, and that's been something that we've heard kind of echoed the last couple of days as well. And there are probably close to 16 teams that feel going into the season they have a legitimate shot to end up in Arlington, and for good reason. Obviously, there's roster holes and rebuilds at a couple of these universities, but even if you look at a school like UCF that would probably be picked near the bottom, Scott Frost has proven he can win there before. There's no reason that he can't get that program on the right track again, right? Might take them a year or two, but they've got to have positive belief. And, we heard Brett Yormark and Sonny and all the coaches talk about how that's a strength. But one thing that really stood out to me yesterday was Yormark saying, yes, our parity and our equality is a strength right now, but we're going to need to see some of these universities rise to that elite level to take the Big 12 to the next level. And so it's balancing, hey, this is the most fun league in the country. This is a league that plays the most close games. This is a league that you're least likely to predict correctly. But looking forward, there's a need for a flagship university, and you get the impression around TCU, you get the impression around the conference as a whole, TCU can and should be one of those universities, and the pressure is on Sonny Dykes, and he spoke to it, for it to start to trend that direction this season.
We talked to Sonny and Mike Buddy today, both of whom talked about expectations for the program this year. Sonny coming out and saying that their expectation is to play for a Big 12 championship, said that they were disappointed with only 9 wins last year. Jeremy, when you look at the roster as it's currently constructed and the depth that they have across the board, how feasible is that expectation for Horned Frogs this year?
I think it's very feasible. Now I'm going to get hammered for this because I made high expectations last year. I made a good high prediction last year, And some of it didn't work out. Some of it did, some of it didn't.
Sure.
But
as predictions are wont to do.
Absolutely. I mean,
Jamie's never been wrong.
Who predicted Arizona State to win the conference? I mean,
Nobody.
all of us
They were
picked them
16th,
last.
right,
So
yeah.
It was so bad they killed preseason polls in the conference, right? Like,
Exactly. But I mean, going back to your question, Jamie, I really feel like this team, when you look at the offensive side of the ball, when you look at the defensive side of the ball, I really feel confident in saying this is one of the deepest teams that I've been around. We talked to some of the players today. They were saying the same thing. This is really a team. Devin Dill mentioned it. This is a team that they feel like they're definitely too deep at every position on offense and defense. And some positions they might even be 3 deep. And that's very good to say, especially when you're talking about some holes that needed to be filled, some improvements that needed to be made. The defensive line.
Yep.
The defensive line was something that, if we go back and watch that Baylor game, if they had a defensive line that game, they'd probably win that game. And just being able to stop the run. But I really feel confident that the quarterback room's a great room. The running back room, we haven't seen it proven yet, but I really feel good about the young guys they have. I feel great about the older leadership of the Kavorian Barnes. I mean, people are going to look at that and say, oh, they should have went after a bigger guy in the transfer portal. Sonny told us he had more hop in his step than they even expected when we saw him in spring camp. And I'll admit, I said the same thing. He was faster than I thought. But having a guy like him, having another leader like Trent Battle to go along with Jeremy Payne, Nate Palmer, John Denman, the true freshman that they signed, I think that's going to be really good for them. Offensive line, same way. They got guys that are growing up. Cade Bennett coming in. It's going to be a tremendous help. But I look at this offense. They've got weapons. I look at the defense. Year 2 under Andy Avalos. Man, I don't want to get expectations too high. I don't want to get fans too high and putting all their chips in on TCU making it to the Big 12 championship. But I really loved what I saw in spring camp. Guys flying to the football. Guys knowing what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's really important. When you have guys that are athletic and that are fast and they know what they're doing, that's a recipe for a great defense. And that's what I really see in TCU's defense right now. So I know it sounds like a lot of high expectations, Frog fans, but I really do feel like this team, depth-wise, is really, really good.
Look, we're going to say we said the same things about Trey Sanders that we're saying about Kavorian Barnes.
Sure,
and so, yeah, and I think the running game is the biggest questions that a lot of the Frog fans have, right? And I kind of pushed Sonny Dykes on that at the Dias. You didn't make any major changes, but it seems like there's a lot more confidence in this group. And he said, I think we did address it with Barnes, with some changes to the offensive line, with getting guys back healthy, and with just development that comes not only with the players being in the program for additional year, but with the offense being the continuity that they'll have at the offensive coordinator position.
Josh Hoover mentioned it as well, just some of the changes that they've made along the line. And then he said as far as scheming up certain runs, they've found a couple run packages that they really like with this group. And that, I think, is going to go a long way to improving the run game as well. When you think about the depth, Jeremy, like you mentioned, Sonny Dykes, you, across the board, everybody that we've talked to thinks that this is one of the deepest teams that we've seen. When I went on Mike Craven's show over at Dave Campbell's Texas Football last month, one of the things we talked about is that it's very reasonable for this to be a better football team for TCU in 25 than it was in 24, and maybe come away with the same or a worse record because of the schedule that they've got in 2025. They face Kansas State, Arizona State on the road. You've got you don't play Tech, but you do play
BYU on the road.
You've got
West Virginia on the road.
West Virginia on the road. Like, this is a tough conference schedule. And in an unbalanced league, sometimes you're just going to run into that. When you guys think about the depth of this team and the potential for this team versus the schedule of that team, does that help you maybe balance out expectations a little bit?
Well, I'll look at it from last year's standpoint. I don't think anyone after 3-3 expected 9-4. Preseason predictions are what they are. They're predictions. We really can't foresee what the season's going to behold. So what I look at is what they have returning. They have a lot of experience. As you mentioned, Arizona State's going to be a very tough road game. Playing at Kansas State, any TCU fan that is a fan knows playing in Manhattan has been very, very tough for TCU to get wins up there. Playing at BYU is going to be a challenge. They don't have their quarterback back, so does that throw off some things? Is that, last year when we were looking at the schedule, there was zero chance that TCU was going to go to Salt Lake City and beat Utah.
Right.
But things happened. Things happened throughout the season that kind of changed the forecast. And that's all you got to do. You just got to go week to week. Do I think they have the ability to go out to North Carolina and lay it on Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels? Absolutely. I'll go to my grave saying they're going to win by 20. I really feel confident that they can go out there and win that game by 20. Can they go out to Arizona State and win? Absolutely. That's one thing I will say. There's no guarantee whether it's a win or loss, but do I foresee TCU having a chance to win every game on their schedule? Absolutely yes. Is there a game that I feel like, yeah, there's a great chance they're going to lose? Yeah, I don't feel really confident about Kansas State. I don't feel really confident about even playing Iowa State at home. Matt Campbell seems to have TCU's number in a way that I cry myself to sleep at night trying to figure it out. But it's a schedule that, yes, it is much tougher than last year, but there's not one single fan that can fully admit to themselves, did you think TCU was going to beat Utah last year? Everyone was talking about that Utah game. That's the tough game, or how Oklahoma State ended up playing that last year. Arizona, there's just really no way to predict other than saying that, do I feel like TCU can go out and win every game on the schedule? Yes, I do.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking last year at this time about how challenging the schedule looked with Arizona and Oklahoma State on it, and then those two teams finished, I think, bottom third of the league.
Well, they had 4 of the top 5 preseason teams on their schedule.
Yeah.
And so that's why everyone was kind of thinking, okay, well, this is how TCU's going to end up. But when I look at it now, obviously they have some really, really tough teams, but I do feel like TCU can be kind of like what Arizona State was last year, or BYU. No one's kind of talking about. I was honestly kind of surprised how high our 24/7 colleagues rated them in our preseason poll that we did. TCU came away 7th, which was higher than I thought. You know, I ranked TCU. I believe I ranked them 3rd. I couldn't put them behind Texas Tech. I don't care what Texas Tech did in the transfer portal. Yeah, they got better players or whatever, but I still feel like the road to the championship goes through Arizona State and Kansas State, but I think TCU, I've said it a lot, people are going to hold me to it. I still feel like TCU has a really good chance to end up in Arlington.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sonny talked about it too, and what the schedule looks like is what it looks like. It's not how it plays out. And, you know, his job and the pressure is on him to do this job is to get that team to Arlington. And the way they're going to do it is a week at a time. And you can look at the predictions and you can look at the polls and you can look at the experts and take from that what you will. But, you know, when we mentioned 6.5 to Eric McAllister, the look on his face made me feel like I don't think that's the feeling in the room. So there's a lot to be determined, but there's very few excuses for the Horned Frogs to not be in contention to play in Arlington. And that's really what it comes down to, right, is they're out of excuses this year. This is an opportunity, and with it comes a lot of expectation. And that expectation is from Sonny Dykes directly himself. As he said, like, anything less than playing in the Big 12 championship is not a successful season. We've seen it echoed by the players. You have a very veteran group in a lot of key areas. You have guys that made the decision to come back because can't remember which of the guys that said it was. I think it might have been Namdi said there's still meat on the bone.
Yeah.
Like there's work to be done. They have not accomplished their goals. This group has not won a Big 12 championship despite playing in a national championship game, some of those guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. You have an opportunity to make a statement week 1 with all eyes on you. How you handle that versus how you handled that a few years ago is going to go a long way to determining kind of the aura around this season, the positivity or the negativity. And I think that Sonny Dykes understands what that means a lot more today than he did 2 years ago preparing for Colorado.
Absolutely. You mentioned we talked to Eric McAllister. We talked to a lot of different players today. One of the things that stood out to me in those conversations was from Eric talking about his expectations for himself and for the team this year. Obviously, we heard the line that getting to Arlington is a priority. That was across the board from every TCU player. Eric McAllister said his personal goal this year is 1,400 receiving yards. TCU's only ever had that happen, I believe, once in program history. When you think about his expectations for himself, and Jeremy, you've known him for a long time, he is Hazel's own.
Hazel's own.
What do you think about that personal goal for Eric, and is he undervalued, from a league perspective as far as what he can be as wide receiver 1?
Well, first off, 1,400 yards seems like a lot, but when you play in 12 games and you're possibly playing 13, 14, 15, 16 games, I mean, that's very attainable. That's less than 100 yards.
You heard it here,
16-0
for TCU. Jeremy said
yeah, people are going to take that and tweet about it. But no, I feel like if you go back and watch that New Mexico Bowl, I mean, he probably could have had, realistically, guys, he probably could have had,
catches in the
first half. He probably could have ended up with 16 catches for 300 yards. I mean, that's just what kind of day he was having. But when we go back and watch spring camp, it was funny to watch Eric, because he's not doing load management. It's not any of that, but they know what he can do. He would run a route, get 25 yards, take his helmet off, let Dozie get a couple reps, defense would have some success, and then here comes Eric, puts his helmet back on, goes out there and catches another deep crossing route. Him and Josh have such a great connection that they built last season. I think when you look at it, when you see Eric, you know he's a good receiver, but it's kind of funny because not a lot of people realize that he had over 700 receiving yards last year, because everyone talks about Jack, everyone talks about Savion and JP, and here comes Eric. He's 700-something yards, but preseason-wise, I know a lot of people around the league have high expectations for him. He's a preseason Big 12 player. He's obviously thought of extremely high around the program. I predicted before the year started, not about the 1,400 yards, but I think Josh Dotson's record is 70-something catches, and I really feel like Eric's going to break that record, because Josh, as long as both of them stay healthy, Josh is so comfortable throwing the football to Eric, and Eric proved last year that when you need a big clutch play, if you go back to Kansas, go to Texas Tech, who was Josh going to in those clutch key moments of a football game? He was going to Eric, because he knows Eric's going to come down with the big play. And man, I love this for Eric. Eric was, just to give a kind of a backstory, Eric was such a really, really good receiver, very productive receiver in high school out of Azle. He had almost 2,000 yards his senior year, had 1,500 his junior year. Not one single program from Texas, P4, G5, extended an offer to Eric.
That's crazy.
Out of high school. He was one of the most productive receivers in Texas history, and he did not have one single offer from a Texas program. And now to see him be out here at Big 12 Media Days, representing Azle, representing TCU, and knowing where he started, had to go to Boise State, finally found a place back home close to his friends and family, and now he's getting all this notoriety. It's really special to see him go through that. And man, I tell everyone, if you play college dynasty football or anything like that, put all your chips, draft Eric McAllister, because he's going to help you win some games.
Listen, I think it's really fun to see the conversation about him turn towards a record-breaking season, because I agree. I think he's got that potential, and one of the biggest beneficiaries of Savion Williams moving to the Wildcat last year was Eric McAllister, because he got to develop some of that chemistry with Josh. One of the reasons that Josh Doxson was so successful at TCU was because of the other wide receivers on the roster, Colby Listenby specifically, who was pulling defenses away, especially with the deep threat. When you think about Jordan Dwyer and Joseph Manjack, and you were very high on Ed Small this spring as a guy who came in
President
right away.
of the fan club, by the way.
A guy who came in right away and had a lot of success. When you look at the other wide receivers, is there someone with that kind of pull that will allow Eric to have the level of success that Josh Doxson had?
I think Sonny talked to us about it. I think Manjack is a guy that he may not have Jack Best type numbers, but he has the kind of ability to, like I was mentioning about Eric, to make clutch catches. The kid has extremely strong hands. Doesn't wear receiver gloves, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know this.
It's like a baseball player with no batting gloves.
It's really strange to see, but he catches everything. He's very consistent catching the football. He's deceptively fast. Josh talked about it. I really like Jordan. He's a big body kid. He can get open. He got open just like Eric several times during spring camp. He became a consistent receiver that Josh would go to. If you're talking about a guy not quite as fast as Colby Listenby, but a guy that can take the top off defense, I look at Jordan Dwyer. Jordan Dwyer had such a successful spring. Routine every day, first 7 days of camp, he was getting behind the defense. I don't know if that bodes well for the secondary or if that bodes well, but we don't know how to put it in the middle in spring camp. Is it because the defense is bad or the offense is good, or you just don't know where to put it? But from what I saw from him, he was pretty consistent. But I think those two guys are going to be the biggest guys to kind of step up. Dozie's another kid that Sonny has told us, and I was speaking to people around the program, Dozie is a kid that can have that Eric McAllister type year where he was kind of the sixth man of the offense. No one's going to really key on him until he makes a couple catches. They're going to realize, hey, man, number 82 can get open too. So when I was mentioning Eric earlier taking off his helmet and letting Dozie come in and get some reps, Dozie was also having great success catching deep passes. Him and Ken Seals had a great spring camp together, hitting on those big, long passes. But those three guys are the ones I'm talking about the most when I'm looking at receivers that need to step up. And Ed Small.
We know, Jeremy.
Ed
we know
Small.
how you feel.
Hey,
I see little hearts coming out of your eyes right
yeah.
now.
President of the number 18 fan club. Now, let me tell you something. When a coach tells me that kid could have came in and played last year, when you have a receiving core that had Eric McAllister, Savion, Jack, and JP, that's saying something. So that's what kind of potential Ed Small has. And don't be surprised if you guys see him on punt returns too, because he's got that natural center fielder ability. He finds the ball, never drops it. I didn't just jinx him, by the way. He's gonna have a very consistent year returning the football.
We're gonna need to resuscitate you in the press box the first time he scores a touchdown.
Yes.
Clip this. We're gonna clip this in the first time he takes one all the way back. Posted.
Yep.
100%.
This is gonna be a positive affirmation situation, not a jinx.
It's only positivity here, guys.
Yeah.
We're
right.
positive.
You know, what you talk about Jordan Dwyer and coming from Idaho, obviously a smaller program, a lower level, but one of the things that Eric McAllister, who knows something about making that jump, said is that he really believes skill possessions translate, and that he said that this guy is flat out a good receiver, and it doesn't matter where he played before, he belongs at this level, and he's going to have no issues making the transition. And so I think that duo, along with your beloved Ed Small, and just the depth at that position, you don't replace a Jack Besh and Savion Williams one-to-one, but you can do a lot of different things. You can be super multiple in your formations and the way you line these guys up, and most of them can line up in different positions as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of unleash Josh in that regard, and if the run game can step up beside that and you have a more balanced offense, then you could see Eric McAllister have a big season. You could also see this TCU passing offense be really balanced and have an impressive season.
And two guys I didn't mention that I need to mention is Jordan Bailey and Major Everhart.
Yeah.
They're both healthy now, and when you talk about just pure speed, Major was a 10.3 guy in the 100-meter in high school. Jordan was, I don't know what his 100 time was, but he was extremely fast. He made some big plays this spring, and they didn't make them do too much, and I think that's why we saw a little bit more of Ed Small getting those reps this spring.
And that was just for you, really. Sonny understands.
Yeah, let me tell you, Sonny's part of the fan club. He gets my newsletter every week too. So the fact that Ed got a lot of those reps was partly due to them bringing along Jordan and Major slowly because they're coming off injuries.
Yeah.
They know what they have. They know they have speed to burn at that position. They have the type of speed that you can use to take the top off the defense. And so having those two guys back is going to be very beneficial for the offense too. We may see jet sweeps out of both of them, and I don't mind that if they have the blocking that they need, and they definitely have the speed to get to the edge. We saw that with Jordan last year when he had that 59-yard touchdown run, I think against Oklahoma State or Arizona, which one of those games that TCU was able to win big late in the year. But that's what type of ability you have. You have a receiver room that has the talent. It's just putting it together and making sure you see that in the game.
Well, you also have a comfort level with Josh Hoover and his new center, Colton Deary, third straight year, third different center. But he did mention in the most candid Josh Hoover interview we've ever gotten that they each have a different shape. And so he just has had to get his hands up in there to figure out how to make it work. And that's a paraphrase, but not much of one. And I will make sure to post that clip later. But I think Colton Deary moving back to that center position is going to be a net positive for the offensive line as a whole, even though it does take him out of a position where he was successful. So, it's all going to start there. It's all going to start with that relationship between Colton and Josh, and obviously Josh's ability to cut down the early turnovers that plagued them and the reasons that they struggled at the beginning of the season. But if he takes that jump in how he reads a defense, and he talked about that, and Colton talked about that too. They're kind of slowing things down. They're taking an opportunity to read the defense to see what's in front of them before they make a reaction, and instead of just go, just having a little bit different pacing. But the opportunity is there for this to be one of the best offenses in the conference and potentially in the country, but a lot of things are going to have to go right for that to happen.
They truly are, and it's really important in this moment to note that Colton Deary and the entire offensive line are rocking incredibly impressive mustaches.
And this brings up another
season.
important point.
It does, yes. So in our one-on-one, or in our little huddle with Colton earlier today, he and I did make a handshake deal.
We saw it.
Yeah.
We should have.
You also made the handshake deal, Jeremy, as did Brady.
Yes.
So
I did?
Yeah, you agreed to this. You may have forgotten.
I think
Okay.
Melissa's
no.
taking advantage of your memory.
It might be. He's an
video.
older guy. We got to be careful. But
Yeah.
do you want to tell them what the deal is?
I almost don't want to jinx it. There's a very good chance, based on the things that Jeremy has talked about in this episode and what we heard from Sonny and the players today and what we saw in the spring, that TCU has a much improved run game this season. And I know that in the past I've made run defense related guarantees.
Still owe us
on
a
the
shirt
pod,
to eat. But
things like they won't allow 200 rushing yards or I'll eat my shirt, which was a devastating miss by yours truly.
Against Oklahoma.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
I think they ran for almost 400 yards that game, didn't they?
It was a real bad day. I wanted to go down and put some pads on to try and help him out. But Colton and I shook hands and agreed that if he and this offensive line can help them rush for 200 yards against North Carolina week 1, I will go back to the Mustache.
For how long?
September.
We said the entire month of September.
Okay.
So the rest, that game happens September 1. By the time I get back on the plane, heading back to Fort Worth, North Carolina, September 2, we will be in Mustache form should the Frogs have rushed for 200 yards.
As will the whole offensive line, as will Jeremy. And I'm going to work on mine too.
You just pencil it in or something.
Yeah.
I think you should do the mutton chops.
See, that wasn't the deal. We talked about Mustache. And so we'll go with, I'm not going to break the terms of my deal with Colton Beard.
Hey,
he's a big dude.
I think it's
would
possible.
not.
He's over 300 pounds.
He's over 300 pounds. Yeah.
Apparently, you don't want to share a bathroom.
You do not want to share a bathroom with him,
Josh
according
gave
to
that
Josh.
detail as well. I love Colton Deary going to center.
I do too.
It's more natural position. He played that position at Maryland. He was kind of out of sorts playing. I mean, not out of sorts. He did fine playing left guard, but you can tell he's very, very comfortable back at center. He loves talking about it. He played really well there in spring camp. What I will say about this offensive line, you mentioned Cade Bennett, Ryan Hughes is another guy that really stood out in spring camp. And when I looked at that offensive line, and again, I'm prefacing this by this is spring ball. You don't know if it's because the running backs and offensive line are really good, or if the defensive line and linebackers just aren't good. But I can say, without hesitation, I saw big run plays, Jamie.
Yeah, yes,
I saw big run plays, Melissa. I saw a lot of great run plays come from the left side of that offensive line.
Yeah.
So just having Colton out there directing that offensive line, just he's got great awareness. He's very football smart, and having Cade back and having a guy like Ryan Hughes emerge, I feel great about him having that confidence that they can have that kind of success running the football. It's just who's going to get those yards, the running back position, who's going to be the guy getting the rock the most carries that game. We have no idea. We asked Sonny today. He gave kind of like, is it going to be a battle that's going to go all the way through the weeks of fall camp? We won't know who's going to be out there until the first snap, kind of like we did with Chandler and Max a couple years ago when they played Colorado. But I do feel confident that the run game is going to be better than 113 yards per game than what they averaged last year.
So, Jeremy, we think about the run defense and the run offense, and the things that Sonny Dykes has stressed over his time at TCU is being successful in the trenches, being able to control the line of scrimmage, and then off of that, being able to run the football and stop the run. Those were two things where TCU really struggled at times, especially early in the season last year. And Sonny addressed that today and said those were two big priorities this offseason. We talked about the run game a little bit, and you've already mentioned this kind of revamped defensive line, but when you take a look at this defense as a whole, do you think they've appropriately addressed that deficit in 2024?
Yeah, I think so. You're talking to Andy about this defense, and it's kind of goes back to when defense was successful under Gary Patterson, when you had that 4-2-5 that was flying around. What was the reason why they were so successful? You had great defensive line play. And Andy knows that. You have to run this defense successfully, you have to have strong trench play. So them returning Marcus Dill is huge for the defense. I really feel that Marcus Dill is one of the better defensive linemen in the conference. Adding Ansel from Washington State, I can't say his last name, I'll butcher it. I love the kid. He is such a hard worker. Having those two guys side by side in spring camp was a thing of beauty to watch. Both of them are very talented. Ansel, he had 6 sacks last year at Washington State. I saw why. He's got a very, very quick step off the snap. He's deceptively fast, but he's also very, very strong. But when I look at that interior, I look at last year, and I'm not talking bad about players from last year, but I feel like they've upgraded at that position. I feel like Tristan Johnson is going to be a name. People are going to be like, man, we're so lucky to have this guy, because when you talk to people around the program and you ask them, hey, who are some guys that just really impressed you? Tristan Johnson. Tristan this, Tristan that. So he was very impressive. I think Connor Lindgren coming on the way he did helped. And I'm just talking about the interior of the defensive line, but when I look at the outside, when I look at the edge, you didn't have Paul go through spring camp. You didn't have Mike go through spring camp. So what'd that mean? You saw a guy like Jack Chapman, that was a freshman All-American last year, get a ton of reps. You saw Travis Jackson, who was a backup to Nana last year, who had 13 games playing experience. He got a lot of reps in spring. So when I look at that defensive line with Marcus, Ansel, and you name it, you could put Paul out there, you could put Mike out there, you can put Zach out there, you could put Travis out there. I really, really feel confident about this defensive line. I think Zach Chapman's going to be a guy that everyone in the Big 12 talks about. When you look at defensive ends, you look at that guy, he's 6'5", he's 255, he's so athletic, he's got long arms, he does not allow a tackle to gain leverage on him. He uses his hands extremely well, and I feel like that's going to help. I feel like that's the type of defensive end that is successful in Andy Avalos' system. So when you look at the defensive line, just those three key positions, I feel a lot better this year than I did last year, because last year you didn't have Paul, you didn't have Mike, and we don't know how much we're going to have them this year, but they're going to be there. Right. They were held out of spring camp. They didn't do any team stuff. They did just indie stuff. They're going to be healthy once fall camp kicks off, and they're going to be brought along slowly. But guess what? When they play North Carolina, they can legitimately have a 3 to 4 man rotation right there at the edge position.
And you're really, that, like you said, that's going to be such a huge difference maker for this team to be able to keep guys fresh and keep them into that kind of 25, 30 snaps a game versus last year when I think we saw Nana's snap count kind of average around 45, 48.
Absolutely.
And by the fourth quarter, even the greatest athletes in the world are going to be gassed at that point. So just the depth and the ability to kind of leverage that depth late game situations, I think is going to be really beneficial for TCU this season. One guy that we did get to talk to as well today was Nnamdi Obiezor. And he's a guy who found an extra year of eligibility, similar to Bud, similar to Devin Deal, and ended up making the decision to come back to TCU. We talked about, the feedback he got from the NFL was you need to get a little bit bigger. They didn't maybe view him quite as a pure linebacker because he hadn't been moved from safety down to the linebacker spot. He told us today he's sitting there at 230. So he's gained the weight the NFL wants to see, and he told us today he hasn't lost a step as far as his speed goes. When you think about year 2 of this defense, understanding the scheme, having done all the foundational install at this point, and then you return a guy like Nnamdi at the heart of it there at the linebacker spot, what's the potential for him this season, and how can he kind of be the straw that stirs the drink for the defense?
I mean, that's like landing a 4-star out of the transfer portal. To me, I mean, you have a guy like Nnamdi. All Nnamdi has done the last 2 years is finish in the top 3 in tackles. Right. Like, everyone kind of gives him a hard time because I like to say, building a mountain out of a molehill. If a guy misses a tackle or if they miss a certain play, and all of a sudden just gets so big, and they take away from the great plays that the kid has made.
We heard that about Johnny Hodges the last couple of years as well.
Absolutely, and I'm also the president of Johnny Hodges fan club too. Still,
Yeah.
So and I love Johnny just they were inferior. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, so saying that about OU of all teams.
And he had that East Coast accent. They were inferior.
Yeah.
And so, but when I look at Nnamdi, he's so athletic. You're talking about a guy that was 5'11", 190 as a high school senior. Now he's 6'3", 230. Yeah. He played safety during the national championship run. They moved him down closer to the line of scrimmage, and he just made that transition look seamless. And when I watched him this spring, he just looks so comfortable. If I'm an NFL scout and I'm going out, I've never seen TCU before. I go out and I see this dude that has that kind of size. He's got the menacing dark visor on, which they won't be able to wear during the season this year. They can wear it in practice, but not during the season. But he just looks the part. He looks so comfortable in that defense. I really feel like him coming back just made the defense so much better. They're going to be great at linebacker. The linebacker room, I know it's not as deep as some people would hope, but I will tell you right now, their top 3 guys between Namdi, between Caleb, and Max Carroll, those 3 are 3 of the better Big 12 linebackers. You're talking about guys that have size, got guys that have speed, guys like to knock the crap out of the opponents, and you got guys that just know how to make plays. They're around the football all the time. So I feel confident about that linebacker room in general, but I'm really excited to see what Namdi does because he's just such a great kid to be around. And I love stories like his. I love guys that are not recruited in high school. They have to go a certain route, and then you look up, boom, 4 or 5 years later, hey, I'm at Big 12 Media Days. Everyone's talking to me, and I'm considered one of the better defensive players at a prominent P4 program in the Big 12. So I really hope that he's going to have a successful year this year. I feel like Andy's going to put him in position to make some big plays, and he's had 70, 80 tackles the last 2 years. There's no reason for me not to believe that he won't have another 80 tackle type year.
I think what I also enjoyed with talking to him is he's definitely taken on more of a vocal leadership role. Like, he's not a big talker. He's not a Johnny Hodges or a Bud Clark or somebody like that, but you can tell that he understands that getting this year to come back, it's his job to mentor the next group, and he's very comfortable with the defense, with the terminology, with what Andy Avalos wants him to do, and I think we're going to see him really get those younger guys that you mentioned into position and make sure that group that has so much talent is able to translate that to action on the field.
Yeah, notice we asked about the younger players. He mentioned Kiki, which is Keelan Abrams. Mm-hmm. It took him about 1.5 seconds to say his name.
Yeah.
So that's they're doing a good job recruiting. Those top 3 guys are there. The younger guys, man, the future looks bright at linebacker for TCU.
It absolutely does. Let's shift for a little bit here, kind of at the end of the episode, and we had a chance to talk to Mike Buddy a little bit today as well. He's a guy that he's been on the job now at TCU for a little over 6 months. I sat down with him about a month ago to talk about some stuff. I know, Melissa, you're sitting down with him here in a little bit as well. But he's been a little bit quieter as he gets up to speed at TCU. And Jeremy, just talk to me a little bit about your impression of him based on the conversation we had today.
I mean, he's very straightforward. I like his approach. I mean, he wants to know and he wants to understand anything and everything that can help TCU get better.
Yeah.
He seems extremely knowledgeable. I know the big knock on him was he was coming from a program that didn't have NIL, that didn't talk about rev share, and the pace of speed that he's got up to with the whole thing. I fully trust Mike Buddy having that position and making sure he can navigate TCU into the next phase of college football that we're going to see past rev share, past conference realignment, everything else that goes with college football. But man, I'm so impressed with him. He's a very personable guy. I called him Coach today because I'm so just like
vibes.
He does give Coach vibes,
yeah.
and we all laughed about it, but it's funny because he comes off as a guy that is very intelligent, and he really takes time to really care. I don't know if you get this sense too, Jamie, but when y'all talk to him, it's like he really seems to care about the question that you're asking.
Yeah.
He listens. He doesn't just hear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he, like, I was asking a question and I'd pause during the question and I hadn't finished and he would start answering, but he made sure I could finish the question so he can gather every bit of information I was asking him to give me. And I think he's very eloquent in that manner, and I think TCU made an extremely good hire with him.
One of the things that I think has been really impressive about him, and one of the things he and I talked about recently, was the fact that he, I think, has a good grasp on how to leverage his own student-athlete experience at Wake Forest and then his professional career in Major League Baseball. I mean, he said the other day to me, I've seen the impact that good coaches can have. I've seen the impact that bad coaches can have. And I understand what a student-athlete needs to be successful in college for all 4 years. And to have that type of leader at the helm for TCU in this moment, I think is critical, because you've got so much that kids are getting from all kinds of angles now, from agents and family members and friends and media and whoever else it could be, telling them what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. When you've got a leader at the helm, I think like Mike Buddy, who has been there and done it with a lot of these things, that can give student athletes confidence when they go into their quote-unquote office every day as well.
I think it also helps that he is incredibly forward-thinking, which again, coming from his background, I think that was a concern that TCU fans and TCU people had, but he's able to be forward-thinking without being overly risky. And that's kind of the balance that he's going to need to strike, and that everybody needs to strike in this new world. Things are changing so rapidly, you cannot be risk-averse, but you also can't just throw things against the wall and see what sticks. And I think he strikes that balance incredibly well. He's incredibly professional. He's a great communicator. I think that you see the student athletes, as you mentioned, they believe in him. They trust him with his vision. I think the TCU administration, all of the athletes, you can see there's real alignment. And Sonny talked about that as well. The alignment across not just the athletics department, but the university as a whole really speaks to the potential success that TCU can have beyond just the athletic fields, but with athletics driving the bus.
Yeah, and one of the things we heard from both Mike and Sonny today, and I think you'd hear this from other folks at the college as well, is they want sustained success. They don't care about the burst of one season and making a mark in 1 year. They want to make sure that the structure they're putting in place and the plan that they're executing delivers success in 2025, 2026, and 27 and beyond. And when you have that alignment, like you said, Melissa, I think it goes a long way to having the foundation for that success. Because if everybody's on the same page, if everybody's pulling in the same direction, you can kind of craft that success a little bit easier. And man, we heard from a bunch of coaches today, and specifically Sonny, kind of his feelings on what happens when you're a team that tries to have one big year of success. Yeah. And what that could do to kind of turn over the apple cart, or to kind of upset your peers, or what damage is it selling out for 1 year due to your long-term success? Deion
Sanders said as much. Yeah. The instigator of the flash in the pan season, right? Like even he's come around. Yeah.
I think he joked, Joey McGuire, my good friend, can we get some of that money so we can get some of those players too? But I think there's something to be said for creating a plan that will deliver sustained success instead of a flash in the pan.
Yeah, and ever since we've met Mike, he feels like TCU should be at the top in every sport.
Yeah.
And when I talked to him for the first time when he got hired, and I asked him, I said, when TCU called you, this is what you want. You want someone that wants to be part of what you have.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, how long when TCU reached out to you did you take to consider about applying and wanting to be here? He said about 11 seconds. That's what he told me. He's like, it literally took me 11 seconds to understand that I wanted to be at TCU. And he goes back to when he was part of this committee that went and visited different stadiums and just saw TCU, and that TCU was always in the back of his mind. And now he's at a place where it's really cool to see someone that always felt that way about a university, and now he's getting to run things. And like I said earlier, I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to bring, not only just from a football standpoint. I know he has such high expectations, but I know he's going to have high expectations for every other sport. And I really feel like TCU, again, just made a hell of a hire by getting that guy.
We've talked a lot about the positives and the potential and the hype. I think it's been a really kind of high energy, fluffy, positive,
it's media days, of course.
Yes,
right?
Everyone's
right.
going undefeated.
This is the big event where everybody has hope. Everybody's undefeated. Everybody's got a perfect record. When you guys take a look at this season for TCU, on the other side of things, on the warm side of the pillow, what are some of the obstacles standing in the way of success? What are some of the challenges you think TCU needs to overcome?
Oh, you're going to make me go first on this one, huh?
Go first.
I mean, there's still a lot to prove. I think that you talk about the improvement of the offensive line. Sonny says it's the deepest group that he's had. You talk about the depth on the defensive line, but there's still a lot of guys that have not been asked to perform at a high level across a 12-game season, right? There's still a lack of experience. The run game, we can be as confident as we want, but it's the same situation. Who is that lead back? Can you win a lot of games in this conference with this schedule with the running back by committee approach? You cannot. There's no Savion Williams to bail you out this year. You know, you're in year 3 of an offensive coordinator. You'd like to think that system is pretty set, but can Josh take that jump to cut down on the turnovers and still be the explosive gunslinger that he is? You know, on the defensive side of the ball, Andy Avalos is in year 2. Are his players comfortable enough with the terminology to be able to execute his vision on the field? There, as I said before, I think we're kind of out of excuses. Does that pressure get to these players as they get to Sonny Dykes? Like, there is a mandate and expectation to win.
Yeah.
That is very clear. And that is a lot of pressure to put on a program that feels like this is a year where something has to be great. And as you have said, and I think we've all said at some point, it is not unreasonable to think TCU could be a better football team and win fewer games this year. So, but their expectation is to make it to Arlington to play in a Big 12 championship. And so will all of that alignment off the field lead to alignment on the field as well? You know, there's a lot to be proven, but also reason to have high expectations behind that lack of proof.
North Carolina's going to tell us a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go out and watch 15 practices of spring camp and say, hey, man, Josh Hoover looks great. Offensive line was blocking their butts off. Defense was making tackles behind the line. Every practice, there was something good on either side of the ball.
Yeah.
But truthfully, we're not going to know until we see North Carolina. What I like about North Carolina, even though it's a new coaching staff, we got the great Bill Belichick coaching there now. TCU, everyone talks about 2 years ago when they played Colorado. It was like watching, I give this analogy, is like trying to watch 10 feet of film and compared to watching 100 yards of film, because Colorado had so many new players, so many different coaches. They had to just watch so much about Colorado to even learn who the heck they were playing. With North Carolina, I think there's more understanding of what they're going to run systematically. They're going to know the players. They're going to know what everyone knows. Belichick is a very sound football coach. His players are going to be prepared. But I feel like if TCU wins that game, Jamie, just answering your question, the schedule is going to be the biggest outlier. I mean, we mentioned it earlier. Going on the road at Kansas State is tough. They haven't had a lot of success in Manhattan. Go on the road in Tempe, that's going to be a tough game. Going on the road in West Virginia, they've had to pull off miracles there. Jaden Obercron, thank you for going to TCU.
Josh Doxson, late touchdown, all those things.
Yeah, all those things. But I feel like if those things don't get accomplished, it can very well be a 6-6, 7-5 type season. And when you look at it, is 7-5 with this schedule better than 9-4 a year ago? But like I mentioned earlier, no one could have predicted that Oklahoma State was going to be as bad as they were. Utah was going to be as bad as they were. Arizona was. So there's still a lot of season to be played.
Agreed.
And things can change. Things can change in a heartbeat. Something bad can happen with. There, I'm not even going to say it.
Yeah,
but but things could obviously change the outlook, but the parity is so stinking strong in this league. And I think Mike Gundy was up there saying it today. Any week you can have the bottom of the conference team beat the top conference team. And I agree with them. I don't care what people that cover the SEC say. I don't care what people cover the Big Ten say. The Big 12, without a doubt, has the most parity in college football. It's like that in basketball. It's like that in football. It's not going to, it shouldn't hurt anyone's feelings to say that about the football team. Everyone talks about it in basketball. The football conference is the same way. I really feel like this is a conference. If TCU goes out and they can accomplish with the schedule 8-9 wins, I think that's a great year for them.
100%. I think that the Big 12 Media Day specifically is a very fun set of days to build hope and confidence for every single fan base across the league that maybe you don't see necessarily in the SEC or the Big Ten, right? Because, I mean, Northwestern's Big 10 Media Day, I mean, you're still looking at Northwestern, Mississippi State in the SEC. I mean, it's still Mississippi State, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about a league here in the Big 12 where the 16th team picked to finish 16th won the damn thing last year. And so anything can happen on any given Saturday. For me, I think just to kind of wrap up this thought, we've heard a lot from folks these 2 days about the headlines in June and July and making waves in the offseason, and there are programs that I think do a really good job of winning the offseason year over year. Texas Tech is an obvious example of that.
Yeah.
They dominate the headlines. If you're going to be okay in TCU's position with not letting, but just, taking a back seat in the off season and just going about your business and trying to get better and taking care of yourself first, while other schools are out making headlines and taking over kind of the news cycle. I think it's critically important to show up on Saturdays in the fall, because otherwise you get a whole year down the road and nobody's talked about you. And so for me, I think that there's a little bit of added pressure because of their approach. And I like the approach this offseason of, let's just take care of our house. Let's just take care of business. I think that sets you up for a lot of success in the fall. And now you've got to go out, like you said, come that Labor Day game against North Carolina. That's the first time we'll really know for sure what this football team is going to do in 2025. They got to make it happen. I hope they make it happen. I know you guys feel the same way. And we'll be back here pretty soon talking about a season preview as fall camp gets underway in less than a month.
Yep, looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of fun to stop talking and start watching football, right?
Absolutely. Jeremy, thank you so much for your time today, brother.
Appreciate you.
I told you guys, anytime.
We'll make
Just
sure
for
our
you
lawyers
two.
get the money over to you pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Everyone,
Venmo.
drop that Venmo publicly. You've already got enough lake houses. It's fine.
No, you can never have. The limit does not
They're under
exist.
remodel right now.
That's fine. Well, we got to pay for those new floors and that marble countertop.
Yeah, marble is high this time of year.
All right. Well, for Jeremy Clark and Melissa Treebwasser, I'm Jamie Plunkett. This has been the Frogs Insider Podcast. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel as well. And go check out mine and Jeremy's work, and Melissa occasionally as well, over at hornfroglist.com. Subscribe today.